Thanks everyone for joining. Today we'll be providing an overview of the F-gas Reduction Incentive Program, which we'll be referring to as FRIP. My name is Kai Gray. I'm a Senior Program Manager with the North American Sustainable Refrigeration Council. I'll be presenting the slides today along with our technical lead, Ed Esberg. I think everyone probably just heard the announcement, but we will be recording the webinar, and then we will share the slides afterwards as well. So today we'll cover an overview of the program. We'll go through an update on the project awards to date, and then I'll hand things over to Ed to go through some of the technology options eligible through the program, and also go through some case studies on some actual projects. And then we'll wrap up with next steps and leave time for Q&A at the end. If you guys have questions throughout the session, feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat box. Otherwise, we'll plan to leave time for discussion at the end. So I wanted to just start out with an overview or background of how the FRIP program came to be. And so in 2022, Senate Bill 1206 was adopted into law to restrict the sale and distribution of virgin or brand new high GWP refrigerants on a phased timeline. And so the first step of that went into effect this year. So now those virgin refrigerants with a GWP of 2200 or higher are now prohibited. And so obviously this has a large impact on supermarkets and other facilities using HFCs, typically known as 404A or 507. Those are some of the common ones that are in that threshold. And so that's also causing those refrigerants to become scarcer as the HFC phase down progresses. So through the FRIP program, the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, has dedicated funds to support the transition to ultra-low GWP refrigerant systems. So funding from the program can help refrigeration facilities make that switch now to avoid higher refrigerant costs while also future-proofing refrigeration equipment. Okay, so now diving into the program itself. So between the 2022 and 2024 budget years, the California State Legislature appropriated $65 million to CARB to increase the adoption of climate-friendly refrigerant technologies and also further reduce F-gas emissions. So there's a variety of different initiatives that are working towards those goals. The sector we're focusing on today is commercial and industrial refrigeration, which has been allocated $38.5 million to support the replacement of at existing facilities that have refrigeration systems listed on CARB's Refrigerant Management Program, or RMP. So a couple of highlights here. The funding guidelines, that's kind of the document that will hold all of the requirements and everything you could want to know about the program, the deadlines, what's needed in the application, everything can be found there. Those guidelines will be linked in the deck that we send out, and they can also be found on the program website, fripfunding.com. The program is first come, first served, so we encourage you to apply as soon as possible, and the deadline is December 15th of this year. Okay, so now looking at what's eligible for the program. So there's two eligible project types. The first is full replacements, which is just as it sounds. It's 100% replacement of an existing high GWP refrigeration system with a new system using a less than 10 GWP refrigerant. The other eligible project type is a partial replacement. So this is a conversion of an existing refrigeration system to a secondary system. And so essentially the fixtures, the cases, and the evaporators would be replaced, and the existing machine room, the high side would be left intact with the addition of a heat exchanger. I'll let Ed do that a little more justice when he goes through the technology options in a little bit. In terms of the eligibility criteria, so the existing system must be, there's three sectors that are eligible. So there's retail food, industrial process refrigeration, and cold storage / other refrigeration. So any of those facilities are eligible for the program as long as they have greater than 50 pounds of refrigerant. The existing system must have a greater than 1,300 GWP refrigerant or an HFC, and the applicant must comply with existing laws, including the Refrigerant Management Program and HFC regulation. On the installed side, the new system must use a less than 10 GWP refrigerant. It is a grant-based program, so you must apply and get approved prior to purchasing any equipment. It's not retroactive. The installation must be completed by the end of next year. And then the refrigerants that are removed from the old system must be treated according to existing laws, and the project must meet CEQA requirements if applicable. All right, now looking at how the grant funds are actually calculated. So splitting it into those three sectors here, looking at retail food first, you can see there's basically three subsectors within retail food. So the first row is facilities that are less than or companies that have less than 20 facilities in California. And so the incentives for all of retail food is based on the linear footage of case and the square footage of walk-in box that's removed or replaced as part of the project. So for the less than 20 facilities, we have the highest incentive amounts. The second row is for national chains or companies that have greater than 20 facilities in California and are also located in priority communities. And then the last row you can see is for basically any other facility, essentially not in a priority community. And so if you want to get a sense for what you might be eligible for, you'd add up the total linear footage of case, the total square footage of walk-in box in the store as it stands today, and multiply it by the applicable rates. For industrial process refrigeration, the incentive is based on the cooling load ton, and for cold storage, primarily based on the square footage of refrigerated space, or if there's cases, refrigerated cases, those are also incentivizable as well. Now looking at the total eligible amounts. So for the first row here, for the national chains, the greater than 20 facilities in California, those companies are eligible for up to 3 million or 3.3 if at least 5 sites are located in priority communities. On an individual project basis, you can get up to 500,000 per site if it's in a priority community, or 400,000 for others. Second row down, for the independents or the less than 20 facilities in California, those can also install or do multiple sites. The company as a whole can get up to 2.25 million, and an individual site can get up to 750,000. For industrial process refrigeration and cold storage, those companies are eligible for up to 3 million at a company level. For individual sites, industrial can get up to 2 million per project, and cold storage can get up to 750,000 per site. Again, the incentives are based on what the equipment that's in the facility today. So these are just the maximums, but the incentive amount is really driven by the existing equipment. The incentive amount also cannot exceed the cost of the refrigeration equipment. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, now looking at the process. So the first step is to submit an application. We'll review that and then issue a grant agreement within about 3 weeks. Once that's signed and executed, the equipment must be ordered within 180 days or 6 months. And from there, the project must be completed by the end of next year, December 2026. Once everything's wrapped up, you'll submit your grant claim, and then we will process the payment. Just a look at the application fields. So here's some of the information that's required in order to submit an application. So you'll need to document the existing and proposed system type, the refrigerant and the charge that's in the system. And then the incentive metrics, either the linear foot of case, the square foot of walk-in box, or for industrial, the cooling load ton. We'll need a quote for some estimate of the project costs, and then an estimate of the start and end dates. We also asked for some documents like a existing refrigeration schedule and a proposed refrigeration schedule, and floor plans to help us understand the project. As I mentioned before, it's a first come, first serve program. Okay, now just looking at the project awards that are in progress. So we have 62 awards in progress, equaling just about $20 million in incentive funding. Those projects add up to over 500,000 of metric tons of CO2 equivalent. You can see the majority of projects, 71%, are in priority communities, and the program cost effectiveness is at $36 per metric ton of CO2e. On the right side here, you can see the just a graphic of how much has been spent so far. So we're just over halfway through the available budget, and we're starting to see that move more quickly as we near the deadline. Okay, with that, I'll hand it over to Ed Esberg to talk through some of the technologies.
Good morning. I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 technologies that are available. The first, you've probably heard of, CO2 transcritical booster systems. The second can be self-contained propane cases. You can take your existing rack and create an indirect system where you use your existing rack, add a heat exchanger, and then chill either glycol or CO2 and circulate that to the fixtures. And then the last technology that's coming online now is what we call one-on-one or conventional units. There's a picture of one in the upper right side there. Usually those are 3 to 15 horsepower, and they have very specific loads connected to them. So you have 4 options to meet the requirements for this program. Next slide, Kai. So this is an example of a project where they went to a CO2 transcritical booster. The existing store had 408A, 1,700 pounds. They're going to put in a transcritical rack and hold about 1,500 pounds of CO2. This was in a priority community. It was a small grocer, so we got the maximum $750,000 as the incentive. Looks like the total project cost is going to be around $2 million, probably be a little more than that. He had 627 feet a case. The nice thing about this project is when you go to CO2, you're future-proofing against future regulations, at least as we know them today. A negative is that it does require full permitting by the building department. You're doing a major project in your store. And it does require quite a bit of planning to keep your store going, to keep the existing equipment running while you're switching out to the new equipment. This is a fairly complex project, but when you get all done, you're done with the regulations as we know them today. Next slide, please. This is a possibility where you have either a central system or a rack system 2-stage, or an individual rack of low temp, and you want to change out, let's say, just the freezer cases. There are 404A now. You're going to put in self-contained R290. Now you can either take the low temp rack out or just discontinue the use of the stage section of the low temp of a central system and still get the full incentive. This is a very cost-effective way to make a change. This project, we estimate, is going to cost about $240,000. You get over half of that in the incentive because the new cases actually have a condensing unit in them. So we're treating this as a full replacement. This was only 100 feet a case. So if you're a retailer and you want to change just your low temp and you're on a central system, you can put in R290 self-contained cases and just discontinue the use of the low temp on the existing rack and still get the full incentive. It's good for small format stores. And again, it's a full replacement incentive. Next slide, please. This is where you can take this is what we call a conversion to CO2 secondary. You get a partial incentive on this application. This is where you have a good machine room, one that's been effective, relatively new, maybe not fully depreciated. Maybe you want to change the cases out, maybe just produce cases or maybe freezers, deli lineups. But you want to start working your way towards the CO2 system. So you can buy a heat exchanger and put it between your existing rack and the new fixtures and either circulate CO2 or glycol down to the new fixtures, and you'll get a partial incentive. Get up to $350,000. If you recirculate CO2, you can either do it with a recirc or you can do thermal siphon. One of the big advantages here is that you're not compressing CO2, so you don't have the extreme high pressures, you don't have the oil return issues, you don't have the complicated control systems. This type of remodel is a lot less disruptive to the sales area. You can put the heat exchanger up on the roof, pipe it into your existing system without any interference with operations. Go in that night, change the cases out, hook it to the new system. It's very user-friendly for the retailer. The big drawback to this type of system is that sometime in the future, you're going to have to convert the high side to a low GWP refrigerant. And who knows 10 years from now what those options will be. But this option makes it very easy to do a remodel with very little disruption to your store and allows you to save the cost of a complete new machine room. Next slide, please. This is an example of a cold storage job that's being done. They have R22 in the system now, 11,000 pounds. They're going to switch to ammonia, so they get the full incentive, $750,000. This project estimate is around $4 million. There's 100,000 square feet of cooled space, storage space. Ammonia is a very common refrigerant. It's been used for 100 years in the industrial cold storage area. There's lots of people who know how to deal with it. It has the lowest GWP, actually 0. Relatively simple technology. Again, it's been around for forever, and a lot of people know how to deal with it. If you're converting from an R22 system to an ammonia system, most likely you'll need a new machine room. The machine room requirements are different. The machinery is different. Obviously, all the piping and coils, everything has to change. And you'll also have to spend some time with your maintenance crew and training them on ammonia and on the safety of working with ammonia. Next slide, please. So why would you upgrade now? Well, there's a lot of reasons. And one of the big reasons is to comply with the current regulations and future regulations. You're going to want to avoid the high refrigerant costs as these HFCs get phased down and there's less available. The cost of these refrigerants is going to go way up. And if you don't stop your leaks, which we haven't been very successful doing, the industry hasn't, if you've got a 15 or 20% leak rate, you can calculate what your costs are going to be. But we're really sure that the HFC refrigerants are going to go up in cost. They're also going to be a problem with availability as the chemical manufacturers slow down production of these HFCs. Another reason to do it right now is obviously the incentives are available now through the end of this year. So now's the time to apply to get anywhere from 100,000 to 750,000 or maybe more. Your system might need to be modernized, and now's a good time to do that. And if your company has environmental goals, now's a perfect time to try and meet those goals. And with that, Kai, I'll send it back to you.
Great, thanks, Ed. So just a couple slides to wrap us up here. So just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that NASRC does offer complimentary technical assistance that goes far beyond just supporting with applications and confirming project eligibility. We can provide education around eligible technologies, beyond what Ed just shared. We can help with actually scoping individual projects, help with finding contractors and obtaining bids. So, we are here to help make these projects happen. Whatever your needs or concerns are, we're happy to talk through them and help you as best we can. So please reach out and we will be happy to assist. And so just if you are interested in applying, just a quick overview here. So first you want to confirm eligibility like I talked about before, make sure that your site is registered on the RMP and in compliance with HFC regulation. CARB is happy to help with RMP and HFC compliance. So we don't want that to be a concern or prevent you from applying. We're happy to help you through whatever concerns or issues there might be. Next, you'll create a login at fripfunding.com. Again, that's where you'll find lots of resources and helpful information about applying and complete an application. And again, if you guys have questions, want to discuss the project, feel free to contact us here at the information shown on the screen. Alrighty, and that's the end of our slides today. I'll now open it up for Q&A. Feel free to type questions in the chat or just come off mute and speak up. Looks like we do have a couple in the chat. Let's see. Okay. What is considered a priority community? So that is there's a map that you can access by Cal Enviro screen that shows the low income and disadvantaged communities, and you can type it in your address and figure out if you fit within one of those communities. I can share out the link, and it's also available on fripfunding.com. Okay, so would a project that involves a demolition and complete new construction still qualify for funding? So the eligibility requirements must be that it's an existing facility with existing refrigeration system with a charge. So assuming that facility has an HFC in a system, the charge is still intact, and that's removed as part of the project and replaced with a new system, then the project would be eligible. Next question, are there any exclusions to eligible costs? For example, are costs for installing process sensors, temp pressure, flow level, etc. eligible, or does it only include costs for the compressor piping installs? Maybe Ed, I'll let you take that one.
The requirement is that the incentive cannot exceed the cost of the equipment. So in the equipment, you can consider material, but not labor. So if you're buying compressors and a condenser and evaporators, almost everyone we've looked at, the cost of that equipment way exceeds the incentive. So it's generally not a problem.
Yeah, I would just add maybe that, any equipment that's necessary to make the new system work, is eligible costs. So if it's a component that's a requirement to operate the new system, then that equipment's eligible. So that looks like that's all of the questions in the chat. Just double checking here. And yeah, thanks, Danielle. Looks like she added the link there to the mapping tool to check out if your site's in a priority community. Any other questions? Oh, let's see. Okay, another one. Is there co-funding allowed? So yes. So the program encourages layering with other programs. So whether that's utility funding, other incentive programs, we certainly encourage that. Just cannot overlap with funding from refrigerant-specific programs. So one example of that is the FPIP program. Those two programs can't be stacked or layered, but most other programs are eligible. Another question that just came in, are new technologies like absorption cooling eligible or only swaps to vapor compression systems? Ed, I'll let you take that one too.
As long as they use a refrigerant with less than 10 GWP, they qualify. Doesn't have to be vapor compression.
I'll give it another minute here, or a couple minutes for you guys to think of any other questions. And yeah, if you think of something after the webinar is ended here, don't hesitate to reach out at the contact information on the screen. We're happy to help. All right, we got another one. Are there any exclusions for getting additional funds from other sources, such as utility rebates? So I think, yeah, the only exclusion is just a program that is specific to funding refrigerant replacements. So yeah, there aren't too many of those. If it's an energy efficiency program through utility or other incentive program, that's fully eligible. It's just if it's a refrigerant specific program, that's the only thing that wouldn't be eligible. Another question came in, is there a cost for a site visit? So no. So if we're needed to come out on site to help scope out a project, help answer questions, look at the existing system, that's free of charge to you. Another question that came in, will there be a similar program in 2026? So at this point, no, there are no plans for a similar program funding projects of this scale. This is the last chance to apply for funding. Okay, questions are slowing down here. I'll give it another 30 seconds maybe. All good questions, so feel free to keep them coming. And like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I think we'll call that a wrap here. Thanks everyone for joining, and don't hesitate to reach out with questions. Thanks all.